maybe I should put my microphone down. Jesus Christ.
Maybe I was wondering why it felt like you look different, and I was like, oh, because I can see your whole face. Okay.
Oh my God. This is what happens when we're rushed, guys. This is what happens when we do episodes between clients. It's chaotic.
Feel hopped up.
So, it's
ready to go. So if this message is received with passion or urgency or intensity, just know that we're squeezing this in. We're just trying to make things work and be efficient. So here we fucking go.
Episode 98.
Yeah, episode 98. Holy shnikes.
I know. However, we do have over 150 episodes at this point, just to be clear. But like real quote unquote episodes that aren't PS or subscription. This is episode 98.
Super exciting. Super exciting. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to process through hurt feelings when you're feeling like it might hit you, like the certain situation hits you deeper than, something else you can brush off of your shoulders, right? Like, how do you work through hurt emotions instead of staying stagnant, staying stuck in them, not knowing how to move through them?
Yeah. And I viewed it as like, how do I sit with uncomfortable feelings, whether it's hurt, sadness, whatever, that I don't usually sit with and I'll avoid, or I'll do something to distract myself. How do I actually acknowledge them, but don't let it eat me alive, basically?
Yeah. Wholeheartedly. When is a time, Stephanie, that you had to sit with uncomf emotions?
I would say probably my most recent that I can think of that I feel comfortable sharing would be when Bug was having a really hard time in school and getting in trouble and being at work when I found out and having to like acknowledge that like, okay, this is happening, right? Like it is what it is. I can't change it. But also allowing myself to, because in those moments, I think I was like between sessions, but like in those moments, I reached out to you, I reached out to his dad, just to be like, this is happening. This is how I'm feeling. And like, I can't necessarily fully process it right now, but like, this is what's going through my head. Before I would have just shoved it down and been like, I got to work. I can't do this. Right. And that's not helpful for anybody, because then I'm going to go home and not explode, but like be literally consumed by all of the emotions that I didn't acknowledge to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100% of that. It's just like pushing off. And then eventually you get home and it's like this fucking atom bomb goes off because you have the chance, the space to be able to express it, feel it, all of those things. But then it's not started in a healthy way. Whereas it's like, okay, if I'm sharing with my support system as I go, I'm alleviating some of that pressure that's building, like thinking of it like a pressure cooker, right? Of like, if I'm just kind of alleviating it a little bit as I go, even though I can't specifically deal with it right now, then it's going to be more manageable when I get home to be able to process through it.
Well, and those immediate reactions. So in that moment, my immediate reaction was like, I feel like a bad mom. I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like I was
all the cognitive errors. Yep.
Yes. I was verbalizing all of these things, because if I sit with those and don't do anything about that, I will feel like that for a very long time and convince myself that that is real. Right. And Mari does great of not being like, she doesn't overly try to tell me that my feelings aren't valid. She listens, but she will challenge me when I'm ready to hear the challenge. Right. And like, sometimes I just need somebody to hear the thoughts that are going on in my head, so they know like where I'm coming from. Does that make sense?
And there's a differentiation that needs to be made here. Your feelings are valid at all times. Your feelings are valid. They weren't justified for the situation, because the perception was strictly emotionally mind-based. My son is getting in trouble at school. He's being reprimanded. I'm personalizing and internalizing. I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad parent. I can't do anything right. When realistically, I don't even have enough of the fucking information to make any sort of why can't I think of the word? Any sort of conclusion here. Sorry.
I was going to say judgment, so I would have
been that would have fit too. But to make any sort of judgment or come to some conclusion, I don't have all the pieces to be able to deal with that. So like, I absolutely can understand how you're feeling that way. Those feelings are valid, right? That they're coming up for you. They aren't justified because we're strictly in that emotional mind. But again, in that moment, people aren't ready to hear that yet. So it is like, okay, express your feelings, do what you need to do, take that little bit of pressure, that little bit of release off, and then let's come back to this.
So in DBT, typically, and we've talked about this before, DBT is used for people who are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, but it can be used for everybody. The
It's
skill
so
that we're going to talk
applicable.
about 1,000,000%. The skill that we're going to talk about today is typically used for people who engage in self-harming behaviors or have kind of unsafe urges. So the skill is called riding the wave. And I know Mari does this too. I teach this skill to everybody. Riding the wave. What?
Yep. So you teach this religiously almost with your clients?
Yes, about emotions, right? So if they have unsafe urges or thoughts, we definitely cover that too. But I talk about this in regards to emotions. And I think it's a really powerful tool because it's one that you can use with visualization that I think is really helpful for people who are visual learners. So typically when I explain it to people, and we can go through what we both do if you want, is when I talk about riding the wave of emotion, I'm telling people, like, picture a wave, right? A wave starts out low, right? So if your emotion is kind of starting here of like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit sad. And then you start to think about things more and more, they're going to go up a little bit like a wave does, right? And they're going to keep going up and keep climbing, almost like a roller coaster too. You're going to get to the top of the crest of the wave and you're going to feel like, oh my God, this is all consuming. I'm never going to feel better. This is terrible. I hate everything, right? Go through the whole wheel of emotions, right? And then I explain to people, waves always come back down, which means they're going to come back to shore and you're going to come back to safety, right? So if you can visualize your emotion kind of going up like this and knowing it's going to hit a peak spot, but I'm still going to make it down safely, it makes a huge difference. And it sounds, I'm not going to make a judgment, but like, I think to some people it could sound dramatic of like, wow, you're going to come back down to safety, but that's the reality of it, right? Because nothing lasts forever.
Well, and it doesn't even have to be safety, like physical body safety. Sure, that's how it's associated with DBT and when working with people who have borderline personality disorder. Sometimes there is a very increased risk of self-harming behaviors or suicidal ideations. But safety could also look like, I am not going to act impulsively on my emotional interpretation of the situation. Does that make sense? Like not even so much safety wise, but like, oh, I'm going to send that email, or, oh, you know what, I'm just going to tell him I can do it, or I'm just going to break my boundary and all of those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You can prevent yourself from lashing out at another person or lashing out. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things.
Did that this morning with Sophia. She wanted to wear this certain outfit, got her these certain pants. They're like linen-y gauze pants, so they're not typically of something that she wears. Couldn't find something that she wanted with it. She had to take a shower this morning. I had to take a shower this morning, which starting at 7 a.m. when we need to be out of the house at 8:10 a.m. And I wanted to get her teacher a coffee because she's just had a hard week with Soph's class and trying to just do a random act of kindness. I was like, we gotta go. I don't have time to sit with you and try and pick this outfit out. So she came out and I was like, I don't have time to make you an egg sandwich today. You could have cereal or fruit or something like that, but today is not an egg sandwich day. Even though you've gotten egg sandwiches the entire fucking week, you could have whatever. But she was like, and like went to her room, slammed her door, and I wanted to lose it. When I tell you, I literally wanted to be like, you fucking ungrateful. But I didn't, because my parents weren't up making me egg sandwiches.
Correct.
My parents, I didn't need breakfast when I was a kid. Like there was no breakfast. There was breakfast on the weekend and it was called cereal. My parents were not, my mom was not up making anything because she was working jobs. So, but again, in my mind, I'm like, Mari, you've provided that life for her. So she can't be grateful for something that you've always done. So went into her room. I said, I don't appreciate you slamming the door. That is very frustrating to me. How can I help you? And she was like, I just can't find something to wear. But again, took myself a minute of like, yes, I can be upset. Yes, I can be very frustrated, this emotion. And I'll now share how I use it with clients, but like, that's not going to get me anything. Take a deep breath, come back down, approach the situation. So I don't teach this skill with clients, really. I think that it is a helpful skill. I think it's important. And I used to teach it. And now I've moved more towards framing emotions like data points, because I have found that clients grasp onto the idea of this easier than allowing emotions to feel like they could be so overwhelming that they're riding a wave, right? Because waves can be overwhelming, and people who have very active imaginations might take that to the nth degree of like, it's a tsunami, it's a tidal wave. Like,
sure.
Okay. So I frame it in the sense of stop giving your emotions so much power. All it is a data point coming in. Your body and your brain are reacting together at the situation. What is it trying to tell you? You are a scientist. You are a private investigator. You're a detective. Get to the root cause, get to the bottom. What is it trying to tell you? So my emotion, my frustration, my anger this morning that sparked off right away. Okay, what is it trying to tell me? I feel disrespected. Okay, understandable. Take a step back. I know my daughter. Is she acting out in a malicious intent? No, she's overwhelmed. I can see she's overwhelmed. She doesn't know what to do. I'm rushing her along. This isn't our typical morning routine. She hasn't even eaten yet. I know that she didn't have good sleep because that girl was snoring. So obviously when you're snoring and you're moving around disrupted. And then she was telling me this morning too that what I determine is like an acid burp, like the acid reflux. She started experiencing that too. That is strange and different and uncomfortable. And we also talked about a situation before bed that she was really worried about, really nervous about for the next day. So she's got that on top.
Sure.
So, okay, she's not attempting to be disrespectful to me. That's how I feel. But here's the thing, feelings are not facts. She's not blatantly disrespecting me. She wasn't like, hey, fuck you, mom.
Correct.
Hey, fuck
You're
you
the
and
worst
that
fucking mom ever.
You stupid bitch. But here's the thing. I get to choose whether or not I accept that.
Sure.
Even if, and let me tell you, there'd be a fucking problem if she spoke to me like that. But even if I choose whether to give that emotion, I know I'm not being a bitch. I know I'm not these things. So I'm not even going to acknowledge that or let that come into my presence. Like it can come and it's going right away. I'm not giving any space to that because I'm validating myself of like, I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm on track. I'm being diligent or whatever. So when I'm talking to clients or when I'm talking to people, I'm saying, what is the data point? What is this trying to tell you? With, be a fact finder of like, okay, my boss emailed me and they're saying that they want to talk and I'm feeling so overwhelmed by this. What is the data point trying to tell you? And be honest with yourself. I know I haven't been doing the work for the past 2 weeks. I've been slacking off. I've been doing this. I've been trying to book my vacation or trip or blah, 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 blah. Okay, then be accountable. Understand that that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's why your boss is pulling you in to talk, but like if you're feeling guilty or worried or that makes sense. That fits what's going on in the situation because someone breaks up with you and it's like, well, I'm just not good enough. They don't think I'm good enough. They don't think I'm this. What is that data point? What is that emotion trying to tell you? You're sad. You're upset about this. You feel disrespected. You feel, embarrassed or like work through that. Use it as like a puzzle to figure out the answer versus allowing this thought to consume you. You get to be the person who is a scientist or a detective figuring out what's going on versus being like totally overcome by it. Does that make sense?
I think what's hard for some people to internalize, and don't get me wrong, because this is hard for me to accept sometimes, is that we are, like you said, 100% responsible for how we choose to feel about a situation. I am not saying you cannot feel some type of way about something. You have absolutely every right to feel how you feel about a situation. However, I think like the simplest of examples would be if you are trying to date people and you find that you're not interested and then you tell the person like, I'm no longer interested, like, thank you, I had a good time or whatever. It's their choice to be like, well, fuck you, you fucking bitch. Like you led me out, blah, blah, blah. Or it's their choice to be like, I appreciate your honesty. The choice is theirs, right? You did what you needed to do in order to like rectify the situation and be like, yeah, this just isn't working for me. Same thing with a breakup. That person can choose to view it as I put all this work in and you did nothing, the blame game, right? Or say, you know what? I respect the fact that this person is being honest with me and now this is my time to grow. And I'm not saying it's fucking simple to do this because it's not.
No, not saying it's simple to do any of that, but also I have the choice then if I'm saying like, hey, this just isn't working for me anymore. I appreciate the time we've had together. I'm going to explore other options. And the person's like, fuck you, bitch, blah, blah, blah. I choose whether or not I'm going to give merit to that.
Correct.
I'm stepping back and I'm saying, okay, let's think about this. This person's like, fuck you, bitch, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at my message. I'm reviewing the conversation we had. Okay. I told them the truth. I was honest about my feelings. I was vulnerable. I said what needed to be said. I was respectful. I don't need to pick that up.
Correct.
I don't need to claim any of that. I do not need to accept that into my life because I know I did what was best for me. I am not setting boundaries or being vulnerable for other people. I'm doing it for myself. I'm honoring myself, validating myself. We have the hard conversations for ourselves. If the other person, responds in a manner that we think is pleasing, great,
Sure.
great, cherry on top. If they don't, we can't control that. I can't control somebody else's perception of me setting a boundary or me being vulnerable.
Correct.
Nor is it my job to.
The other kind of, it's not a trend, but the other consistent thing I see is that people are choosing, and I know that you guys are not going to like this, and it is what it is because I'm just going to be honest. You are choosing to relive things from the past that make you sad. You are choosing to go back to things in the past and be like, well, they really hurt my feelings and nothing. Here's the thing. If you don't radically accept that that situation happened and that you cannot do anything about it or change it, you will perpetuate your own misery for the rest of your fucking life. That is the 1000% truth of the matter. And I can tell you this because I used to be that person. Does it still happen sometimes if I'm not in a great mental space that I'll think about past things and I'm like, oh, that made me really sad? Yeah, but I don't live there because I'm like, well, I can't fucking do anything about it. So why am I going to sit here and think about things that happened 10 years ago that are done and over with? If that person never apologized, I can't change that. I can't force somebody to want to say sorry. I can't force somebody to take responsibility. That's not a thing.
What is it going to do for you? What is that apology or that expectation that you are placing for this other person really going to do for you? Even if they said sorry, it doesn't change the fact that what happened happened. And even if they said sorry, it doesn't necessarily mean that they mean that or that they're genuine about that. So let's stop living in just that acceptance, right? Of walking the middle path. We've talked about this a couple of times, I think. If not, definitely, I know that we have a PS episode on it. And again, the PS episodes we have a shit ton, and it is a very low monthly fee for you to get all of that content. So we've talked about walking the middle path, balancing between this acceptance and change. If we are just accepting something, if we are just stuck in what has happened, we are not moving towards change. We cannot bring ourselves out of that emotion. So again, radical acceptance, mind, body, heart, spirit. I accept that this is the present moment. Understand, acceptance doesn't equal approval. You do not have to approve of what happened. You don't have to approve of their behavior. You don't have to approve of how you were treated, but you can understand that I accept that that's what I went through.
Yep.
And I needed that part of my journey to get where I am today. I can accept that. And I needed that acceptance in order to move towards change. I needed every part of my journey. I needed every hurt that I went through. I needed every single shit ass step, door closing, shit ass relationship, rude friends, toxic people. I needed every single part of that journey to be where I am today. And that's how I view that. So that's acceptance of that happened. That's part of my life, but that doesn't mean I approve that those things happen. But I also don't approve of some of the fucking behaviors I had.
Correct.
So call a spade a spade. I didn't act and behave in the best way possible, that how I wanted to show up and represent myself. But again, I accept that to move towards change.
I also think that taking not inventory, but checking in with yourself to say, okay, I've allowed myself to feel these feelings. It's been X amount of time now at this point. Is it going to serve a purpose to continue to feel these things right now? Or can I accept it and move on? Right? Because ultimately it is your choice to continue to sit in those emotions and allow it to consume you. And I think people get really upset when we say things like that because they feel like we're victim blaming. That's not what I'm doing. I am trying to give you your power back to know I have the choice to sit in this or not. That is 1000% in your control.
Yeah. And I really don't even see that as victim blaming. It's not that you're coming and you're telling us something and we're immediately fucking move past it. Forget it, set it and forget it. Suck it up, buttercup. We're not having this toxic mentality of well, it fucking happened, move on. But realistically, if I'm your therapist and you're paying me, you're coming to me, I'm not your fucking friend. I am an accountability aspect to help you move through these moments where you feel whatever feeling you're feeling. It's my job to notice different patterns, different things that are coming up, different ways to be able to approach this, right? I can only do what I can do if you're being honest with me. But if we're coming in, we're talking about the same exact thing, I'm absolutely going to point out that pattern of this is the third session we have talked about this. Let's talk about Do you feel, let's compare first session when it really happened, it was right after, to now. Let's compare. Are there differences? If you had to rate the first session and anger 10, how does anger feel right now? Let's take some inventory to see if we are progressing.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, what do you need then? What do you need to express that emotion, to feel that data point? What is it telling you to move past?
Mm-hmm.
And where is the area that we can then implement for you to move past it? I don't like the way that this person treated me. I don't like that they were mean to me and they said all these things and I just let it happen. Okay, data point, what is it telling you? Okay, I'm feeling embarrassed. I'm feeling disrespected. I'm feeling ashamed that, I didn't stand up for myself, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's problem solve, action step. How can we start implementing stronger boundaries in everyday life, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't change that happened. Use that data point, that emotion, to fuel the next part of where the work needs to come.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately the message of this episode is you can ride out that wave of emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can also radically accept that whatever it is that you're having hurt feelings about or sad feelings about or fill in the blank of the emotion, if you can accept that happened and then tell yourself, like, I've accepted that I can't change it. And now I'm going to choose to put myself first and not allow this to consume me. And
Absolutely.
for everybody that's like, I feel things really deeply, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But know that if you're sitting in those things for weeks at a time, that's a choice.
Mm-hmm. And there's no fucking award for feeling things deeper than somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say that, move past that. Well, I feel things really deeply. Okay. So then let's move past that. Because if you're feeling it on a deeper level, that you're telling me I'm feeling this sadness on a deeper level. Okay, well, let's move towards changing that thought process, because while this is upsetting and it's sad, it happened. And we cannot change the fact that it happened. So how do we move towards blah, blah, blah? And also, if you're telling me you're feeling things at a deeper level, here's what we're not going to cherry pick from. If you're feeling sadness at a deeper level, that also means you experience joy at a more intense level. So you then can hold on to that aspect of riding the wave of the tide comes in and the tide goes out, of that no matter what, life ebbs and flows.
Correct.
You know the lows because you've had highs, and you know the highs because you've had lows. So even if you are in what you may feel like is a pit of despair, there will be another up. Correct. There always is.
Yep.
The universe balances energy. Just is what it is. Whether you believe in God, whether you believe in the universe, whether you don't believe in any of it, again, it's balanced. You reap what you sow. What you put out is what you get back. Karma, whatever that it is, there is a balance to it, and there always will be.
Correct.
So you can find Steph at The Spooky Therapist. You can find me at BEA_XO11, and you can find us at Rewriting Her Story Podcast. All of that is on Instagram. On YouTube, you can find us at Rewriting Her Story Podcast, and you can email us any questions, concerns, comments, debates, challenges, excitements, topics, please, at rewritingherstorypodcast@gmail.com. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.